This grinder from COFIBREWS checks a lot of the boxes that you'd want from a grinder that's under $150. Let me assemble this thing and show you some of the tricks it's got up its sleeve. So this is the base of the grinder, and before we install any of the accessories, let's actually get into the core of what this is, which is a conical burr grinder. Now there is a 40mm conical burr in here. Let's take a look. It's actually really easy to remove. All you need to do is pull up this here, and then the outer burr pops right out, and in there is the 40mm stainless steel conical burr. That's a pretty good size for a grinder at this price point. So this is the hopper itself. It says you can get 300 grams of coffee beans here, so plenty of coffee beans. It's basically plastic assembly with a number of interesting parts. So there are grind settings on here. We'll come to these in a moment, but there are 45 different grind settings for different types of coffee. And this lever here lets you open and close the hopper. This is opening access to the hopper, closing it. Other parts of the assembly, the catch cup. This thing is metal, which is nice. A lot of these lower end grinders come with plastic cups. This is metal. It's also the biggest catch cup I've ever seen on a grinder. This is absolutely huge. Like, I have a very similar grinder to this, and this little plastic cup is what it comes with. So yeah, this is a big improvement on that. You could grind a lot of coffee in this. There is a lid for the hopper, but a nice little touch is underneath the lid, there's a little area here to store a brush, so you can keep your grinder nice and clean. But you're probably not going to put the lid on here, because there is an additional feature, which are these bellows. So you can install the bellows on top of the hopper. We put the lid on top of the bellows, and now we can actually push air through our grinder, which is great for getting rid of any grounds that may have got caught up in it. This entire assembly then can be installed. All you have to do is line up this lock symbol here with this red line, give it a twist, and there we go. Now it is ready for us to set a grind size. So we've got settings here for espresso, pour over, drip coffee, French press. I always like it when they actually put the type of grind on here instead of just the numbers, because I use a lot of different grinders. I can't remember what 40 means on each different one, so that's appreciated. And one other touch that I really appreciate is this spout here, because it can be removed just like that, which is really fantastic for cleaning. This little tray slots in at the bottom. Now, two ways to use this. One, if we take this assembly off, this is for portafilters. So let's say that we aren't using a portafilter, we're just making a pour over coffee or something, and we want to use this cup. Well then, just put the cup in here, the beans will grind into this. Now, as soon as I've turned it on, we can use the LED screen on the front. So if I am making a pour over or something like that, if I press this button here, this lets me set how many cups of coffee I'm planning to brew, and it's in intervals of 2, so starting with 2 as the smallest. So what will happen is if I add beans into the hopper here, it will grind what it thinks is enough for 2 cups of coffee. It's not measuring it, it's not doing it by weight, but it is doing it by time for how long this runs. So if I set it to 2 cups, now it's grinding. But there are also settings on here for just kind of an automated just go. So if I just press this button here and hold it down, it will just keep running until I release it, so you can manually run the grinder. If you're actually making an espresso and you're using a portafilter, there are a whole bunch of other options, and I really like this part. So let's take away this cup and we'll add this plate back in, and now I can use this with a portafilter. So I've got a standard 58mm portafilter here. I'm going to pick this portafilter button, and now I choose how many seconds I want this to run for. So I can use the up and down arrows to change how long this actually runs for. I'm probably going to run it manually for an espresso because I'm going to weigh out my beans first. Let's say I'm going to measure this out. So I'm going to want to grind for, let's say I figured out 10 seconds is right. I set this to an espresso grind. There we go, number 7. And I've kind of dialed this in. Now I'm ready to dispense the beans. So I put the portafilter in here, and there is a little button here, and this button will start the grinding when you press it. So if I just lean up against this here, now it will start dispensing the coffee and go all the way through till the end of this countdown, and then it will stop. Where this gets really cool is that I'm using a 58mm portafilter here, but portafilters come in different sizes. For example, this is a 51mm portafilter. Now there's a button here that you can depress. I'm going to push this in, and now when I install this, this sits lower than it did before. There we go, that's lower than it was before. You can see that the button is all the way up the top here now, and this is now perfect for this height of portafilter. So I can adjust this bracket here based on the type of portafilter that I'm using. Typically the smaller portafilters, the 51 and the 54mm, they tend to be a bit higher because they're just not as wide. So this allows you to have room for that. Again, really sweet feature of this. So how about we actually grind some coffee, and let's use espresso because that is the most challenging type of grind you can go with. So I'm going to weigh out my beans here. This would be my typical process. I want to use 18 grams of beans. I'm going to add these in. Now as things stand, it's not going to grind anything. That's because the bean hopper is closed. So we'll open the bean hopper up. I don't know how long it will take to grind 18 grams on an espresso setting, and I have it set as espresso setting 7. So I've just set this to 40 seconds. Like, it will definitely be done by then. Now we need to set this up for a 58mm portafilter. Press that button, add that back on. Now we're ready to grind some beans. Let's take a look at the grind quality itself. And just from the looks of it, that looks like a nice espresso grind. Now, one final feature that I really enjoy about this machine is on the side, it actually has operating instructions telling you what to do, what not to do, what happens if you get error code 1 or 3. I so appreciate that that has been added on, so I don't have to try and find the manual if anything happens further down the line. So that's the COFIBREW grinder. I mean, it does have, as I said at the beginning, a lot going for it. 40mm stainless steel conical burrs, plus all of these nice little touches, the screen itself, the ability to remove everything to clean it, and the fact that we can have multiple size portafilters on this as well. And probably the biggest basket I've ever seen on a grinder.